Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watching for Israel coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach or Malak Yabushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Yahweh Shai. The hearty Shalom to you, mighty men that go out there and labor and do the work of the Most High, enduring all things for the elect's sake, presenting your body as a living sacrifice, and abiding in the will of the Heavenly Father. It's like your hearty Shalom to you men that go out there and put your lives on the line. And the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways, but they're working on it, getting built up in the spirit, praying, fasting, studying, keeping the commandments, getting their households in order, getting their spirits right. And last but not least, Shalom to the Aquaf out there, the sincere sisters out there that reverence their husbands, that are submissive, that keep the commandments, that guide up the households, you understand, and that are these daughters of Sarah, according to thus said the Lord. Shalom to everybody in the live stream. Barak Atah Most High, we back at it again. New Saints, PJ Martin, Rocco Merriweather, Awaken O Zion 07, Louis Quez, Daniel Andrew Kadai, 7 Israel, Diane Ortiz, Kodash Yasha Allah, Eric Yalea. All right, Shalom. The topic of this live stream is, or this cold cut is end times, the great tribulation, rapture, and prophecy. So this is pretty much what I was harping on. I wanted to go into on a previous cold cut, but I know if I went into it, I wouldn't have time. Or I'd do that cold cut, for a longer period of time, but I don't want that one to be that long. So I'll take that topic and I'll make another cold cut off of it. And you living in the end of the world. If you didn't know that by now, you're living in the end of the world, right? Let me go to the book of Matthew, chapter 24. All right, you living in the end of the world. These are the end times. All right, this is not the beginning of Genesis, right? We're not sitting there waiting on, Moses to come down from Mount Sinai. All that stuff happened already, right? Right? We're in the time period of we're patiently waiting for the return of the Son of Man, right? Who the Most High set up as a horn of salvation for the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in the last days. And we're patiently waiting to endure that we can receive the promises that was given to us, that the Most High made with our fathers, man. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. So let's go to Matthew chapter 24. And I want to touch on this great tribulation. And this is a doctrine, that brothers have in the truth. And it also is a doctrine that a lot of Christians have that are of the world. All right. So this is Matthew chapter 24 and 3. I'll start at 1. This is St. Matthew chapter 24 and 1. Now, in my Bible, some Bibles have subtitles. Mine, it says signs. Let's see if I can make that clearer. Signs of the end of this age. Right? And that's a beautiful subtitle, the publishers put in there through the Spirit of the Most High. Right? Let me see if I can. All right, Shalaki. Well, you can see it. All right. It says signs of the end of the age. Right? So it's speaking with the end. When it says world, it means the age. All right. And Yahweh shot Matthew 24 and 1. And Yahweh shot went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahweh shot said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that should not be thrown down. Because Yahweh Shah's telling them, look, you glorifying all of these man-made buildings, all this stuff gonna get thrown down, man. Yahweh Shah wasn't impressed with the buildings that the disciples showed him, with the temple that Herod built and all of the precious stones. He was not impressed with that, man. The Lord charged man through the Spirit to make those things just so they can be thrown down by him. So he said, look, you don't see all that stuff gonna be thrown down, man. Every single one of them. Right? Verse 3, Matthew 24 and 3. And as he sat upon the mountain of olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So that's why I call it this end times, man. Is there are certain signs and clues that the Heavenly Father put out there through his son Yahweh Shai that will lead up to his second coming. And as you notice these different signs, then you would understand. It's like then you would understand that the Most High and sending his son sooner and sooner and sooner as each one of these signs come to pass. Now, what I want to focus on, like I said, what they call the Great Tribulation. All right. Now, what that's actually found in the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter. And again, this is a something that you mainly hear in the Christian church. These Christian eschatologists, which is the study of end time prophecy, eschatology. They'll go into these prophecies and they'll try to put technical terms on it that they came up with, right? But this Revelation chapter 7 and verse 9, I'll read 9 on down to 14, right? Revelation chapter 7 and 9. After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Now, these are Israelites that are scattered abroad. All right, that's where they came out of every nation, kindred, and tongue and people. All right, just to prove that, you can go to the book of Revelation, chapter 5 and 9. All right, let's read that. Same thing, but it's also mentioned in Revelation 5 and 9. Because a lot of people, they'll read that Revelation 7 and 9 and think that all of these people, all these multitudes and nations and tongues that is speaking about Edomites, so-called white people, speaking about Moabites, the biblical name of the Chinese man, the Ishmaelites, which is the biblical name of you so-called Arabs, and even all of you Hamites, which is the biblical name of you Africans, right? But although it says of every nation, kindred, and tongue, remember the prophecy that the Lord said that the children of Israel will be scattered abroad through the four corners of the earth. Deuteronomy 32 and 26, 28, 64. So let's get a precept with Revelation 7 and 9, proving that the Israelites that are in every kindred, nation, and tongue are those people that got out of the destruction. Revelation chapter 5 and 9. And it reads, and they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to the Most High by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So you have a group of people that have been redeemed by the blood of Yahweh Shai. We already know who Yahweh Shai came for. So it's showing that these are Israelites right here, right? It says, and has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. So the Lord said these people that were in every nation, kindred, they spoke every tongue, came out of every people. They were set up to be a nation of kings and priests and to reign on the earth. Now, what nation of people was already set up to be a nation of kings and priests from the beginning? The children of Israel, right? That's where you have to go precept upon precept. And we'll go to Exodus chapter 19 and 6 and prove that. All right, let's go to that. Let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 19 and verse 6. And it reads, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So the children of Israel are the kings and priests that come out of every people, nation, and tongue. So when you go back to Revelation chapter 7, you should have a clear understanding who these people are. The world really wants you to believe that the Lord came for everybody and that he will come to deliver everybody. No, the only people that need salvation are the oppressed, are the men that are trodden down, right? The women that are suffering, the Israelites, man, that are catching hell in a land that we don't even belong in. So we need salvation. We need hope. We need deliverance. And that's what we're reading about here. All right. Revelation chapter 7 and 9, one more time. And they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to the Most High by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. Those are Israelites, right? So the kingdom of heaven is going to be on the earth. And I beheld, and I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and the and the beasts and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, meaning there are billions of angels that are up there in the heavens, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing, and every creature which is in heaven. Slacky, I'm going to try and go back to Revelation 7. I'm reading down to Revelation 5. Right, I want to go back to Revelation 7 at 9. All right, Salaki, Revelation chapter 7 and 9. Right? After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and to the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne, and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshiped the Most High, saying, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our God forever and ever. So John is witnessing the celestial hosts praise the Most High, right? Saying, it's like your verse 13, and one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And here's the point, right? So one of the elders, one of these top spirits, is asking John, right? Who are these men in white robes? All right. Who are all of these people that are scattered abroad? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the lambs. Blood of the lamb, Salakia. Therefore are they before the throne of the Most High, and serve from day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. So this is one of the first accounts of great tribulation. The Lord said in Revelation chapter 7 and 9 that the great tribulation is going to be a time period where you're going to have these elect of the Israelites delivered, right? Now, if you look up, I'm going to pull this up because this is what the scholars say, right? A lot of these people who believe they know the scriptures, if you type in what is the great tribulation, I won't pull this up on the screen, right? If you were to ask, these pastors, these top people in a seminary school, if you ask them what is the great tribulation, so you got Edomites right here and a destruction. Hey, Edomites not going to be sitting having time to kind of get themselves together at the destruction. They're all going to be evaporated at once, man. So the great tribulation, all right, let's see what they say. Now let's see, it says the great tribulation will bring the greatest time of trouble ever to come upon mankind. So they didn't go too far off with that, right? According to Bible prophecy, it will occur during the last days or the end time. All right, they got that right. They pulled two scriptures. All right. It will be a tribulation such as has not occurred from the beginning of the creation that the Most High created until that time. It will not occur again. So they got that right. Let's see. Great tribulation. And I want to tackle each one of these points. So they're saying events during a great tribulation. With surprising speed, false religion will be destroyed. And they put Revelation 17 and 1, 5, 18, 9, 10, and 21. The political powers represented by the United Nations will carry out the Most High's will and his action. Now, what they're failed to mention is that this great tribulation is really focusing on the children of Israel. Now, they're not saying that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the ones that are going to be going through this tribulation, right? The Edomites are not going to be experiencing great tribulation, all right? The main people that are going to be going through this are the Israelites. That's why it is called Jacob's trouble, all right? Let's go to Deuteronomy, right? I believe I want Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. I haven't brought this one out in a minute. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. All right, let's see if I can find this. All right, bear with me 1 second. I have to find this exact precept. All right. Slocky, bear with me. I have to find this. Because the Lord speaks about the great tribulation, but it's often found even in the Old Testament. All right, I believe it's in Deuteronomy 30. Just like in Deuteronomy 4 and 30. All right. Let's go to that in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 30. Right? So Revelation 7, 9 on down spoke about the Great Tribulation. They're saying the Great Tribulation is going to affect all mankind, but that's only for the Israelites. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 30. Now, this is the Lord speaking to Israel. I'll start at 29. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 29. But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, and thou shalt find him, if thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul, when thou art in tribulation. So that tribulation was already prophesied to befall the Israelites. This is Moses, the man of God, prophesying about a condition and a time period that Israel would be in that would be like no other, right? When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days. And you living in the latter days. And this great tribulation is coming, right? Even in the latter days, if thou turn to the Lord, slack it thy God, and shall be obedient unto his voice, right? For the Lord thy God is a merciful God. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he swore unto them. So in Revelation chapter 7, I'll read that again, verse 14. And he said unto me, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. So you have an elect men that are going to be delivered from this tribulation. Now, them being delivered from this tribulation, right? I want to get this. This is where they get the so-called rapture from, right? A lot of these scholars and brothers in the truth, they believe that you'll have, and I'll pull up a timeline, you'll have 3.5 years of tribulation, and after the 3.5 years, you'll have these men getting raptured up after that during that tribulation. Then you have 3.5 more years of tribulation, right? It says the rapture is an eschatological, right, which is the study of the end of the world, concept of a minority of Christians, particularly within branches of American evangelism, consisting of an end time event when all Christian believers who are alive along with the resurrected believers will rise in a cloud to meet the Lord in the air, right? Let's see. I want to get this. Slocky, bear with me. I want to get this is what they believe. All these different views, man. All this folly. All right, all this folly. I want to pull up a timeline. So these are their different views, right? Comparison of Christian tribulation views. Because some of these Christians believe that you'll have people getting beamed up, then you'll have 7 years of tribulation. Some of these Christians believe the tribulation will begin, then you'll have a rapture, right? And then you'll have the second coming of Yahweh Shah. Some of these people believe that during this tribulation, men are going to get caught up in the chariots and the Lord is going to come back. Then you have the Lord reign for 1,000 years and then judgment day after the 1,000 years, right? But the most common concept of what they're telling you about this tribulation, right? Let me pull this up, right? This is the most common view of biblical events according to the world. So they have the first coming of Hamashiach, the rapture, then 7 years of tribulation. Then the Lord is going to come back. So this is what they believe, man. Right? They believe that the Lord came. Then you have the rapture, which are people getting beamed up. Then you have 7 years of hell on the earth. And then the Lord is going to come back after those 7 years. Right? Then you'll have the Lord reign for 1,000 years, then eternity. So we want to tackle this. We want to tackle this word rapture. You know, we're kind of focusing on this great tribulation right here. This great tribulation is speaking about Jacob's trouble. And now they have 7 years. We're going to tackle that too. All right, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 30. All right, bear with me 1 second. right? Bear with me 1 second. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 30. And I want to go, chiefly, I want to go to verse 7. All right? So, like, bear with me. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 30 and 7. So they don't know what's going on. That's why the understanding wasn't given to them. But then the Lord said in Amos chapter 3 and 7, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth the secret to his servants, the prophets. Right? So there are men that are prophets that are going to break down the word the right way. All right. This Jeremiah chapter 30 and 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. It didn't say Edomites' trouble. It didn't say the Hamites' trouble. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. So Jacob's trouble is the day like none other. And it's not just one day. It is a period of time. Now they have listed that as 7 years. Jacob's trouble very well may be 7 years. Or it could be 3 years. It could be 5 years. Jacob's trouble could be 2 months. It could be a month. There is no time limit on how long Jacob's trouble will be. So for these scholars to even put that number out there on 7 years, it's the spirit of error, right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 2 and 10. This is what the Lord tells you how long Jacob's trouble will be. All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 2 and 10. You can't say 7 years, right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 2 and 10. And it reads, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil, which is the so-called white man, shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and they shall have tribulation 10 days. So the Lord said that tribulation is going to be 10 days. I want to look up that word tribulation in the Greek, because we keep going into that word. And I'm going to throw that the blue letter pulled up, right? But I'm going to pull that up. We read about it in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 30, Revelation chapter 7, 9 through 13. Now we're reading about it again in Revelation 2nd chapter, right? About tribulation. All right. So we're going to pull this definition up. And the Lord said, our tribulation during the time of Jacob's trouble is going to be for a period of 10 days. All right. And that word is mentioned a few times in the scriptures, man. All right. But I want to get it out the New Testament, because that's where I want to focus on, even when I go to Matthew, the 24th chapter. Right. It says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Slacky, let me show the screen. Right. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. And we don't fear the things that we're going to suffer. Right. What are we going to suffer? Getting put out of our houses, being locked up in these prison camps. A lot of men, they may be beheaded. You understand? You may go without food and water for a long period of time. Somebody try to put your family out against you. Burn Bibles. Lynch men, kicking down doors, martial law, man. Martial law. And we don't fear those things. Why? Because we believe that the Lord said that the angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. And Psalms chapter 34. Right? Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. So brothers are going to get locked up during the time of Jacob's trouble. During the time of this great tribulation, the devil, which is the so-called white man, he's going to cast us into prison. Why? Because the New World Order has to be enforced. And the number one threats and dissidents to this man's government are the Israelites that go out there and teach. That's why in Revelation chapter 12, I'm going to open up another one, or another blue letter, and we're going to go to Revelation chapter 12 and 17. This is another precept focusing on the Great Tribulation. All right. And ain't no such thing as a rapture. Right? We got to tell you that too, man. All right. Revelation, that word is not in the Bible at all. Revelation chapter 12 and 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. Let's see if I can make this a little larger for you. All right. It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. So you have Esau, the dragon, he's going to be wroth with this woman. This woman is talking about the nation of Israel. How do you know that? Because the Lord has likened us into a comely and delicate woman that's found in Jeremiah 6:2. Isaiah chapter 54, 5 on down, the Lord even calls us a wife forsaken, right? And went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. So during the time of World War III, there's going to be a domestic war, right? You'll have international wars between the United States, Babylon the Great, and Russia, China, and the kings of the East, Iran, Afghanistan, and their alliances. But while that international war is taking place, you have a terrestrial war and a domestic war on United States soil. Between who? The enemies, right? The Israelites and the Edomites. And their main target are those which keep the commandments of the Most High. That's why Revelation 2 says the devil's going to cast you into prison, because those that keep the commandments, you are a threat to this society, because you're coming back to the laws of your God. You're coming back to the laws of the Most High. All right. So let's read this again. Revelation 2:10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. This word tried means tested, proved. You're going to be proved out there to see if you really believe in the Lord or not. Because Esau has torture tactics out there. He's going to try your faith. Like I said, you may be in there starving. You may get your family may get put to death. You may still be in there by yourself. You may say, I believe in you, Esau. And then you kind of give up, right? A lot of people, they're going to go that route. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So our tribulation is 10 days. All right, now 10 days is not literally 10 days. I have to put that out there for those who do not know. 10 days is just a spiritual number. That means an indefinite amount of time. A complete amount of time, right? A perfect amount of time, right? Check this out. We have tribulation. This word in the Greek, let's play this.
Strong's G 2347. Thlipsis.
That's the word in the Greek, thlipsis, which means a pressing together, pressure, oppression, affliction, tribulation, distress, straits, trouble, burden, anguish. So brothers are going to be going through pain, oppression in those days, affliction, persecution. That's a beautiful word. Persecution. All right, brothers are going to be getting persecuted in the last days, man. Right? I want to get Mark 13:21. Yet hath he no root of himself, but endureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. So brothers that are in the time of Jacob's trouble, when this persecution comes, they're going to be offended. And it's that same Greek word for persecution, right? They're going to be offended and say, well, I don't know the Lord. I don't know about this truth. I don't know about Yahweh Shai. See, that same word is persecution, which is thlipsis. So there should be another way of saying great tribulation is great persecution. Now, who's going to be persecuted? Who's going to be pressed out? Jake said that in the world. Damn, they're pressing me out, man. When you're getting pressed out, people applying the pressure on you, you're in a situation where either you fold or you come out of that, right? A lot of people fold under pressure when people apply the pressure, where you're in straits and affliction. There's going to be great persecution. Now, these Christians, pulling this back up, these Christians believe, like we brought out, I want to get this timeline again, right? They believe that during the tribulation, that not only is it going to affect all of mankind, which we thoroughly cut, this tribulation is only going to affect those that keep the commandments. All right, that's Esau's number one threat. In front of the face of Islam, ISIS, COVID-19, the invisible enemy, he has an actual physical enemy that he looks at day in and day out, that he studies, that he knows is coming back to their God and their nationality, that are keeping the commandments. And those are his enemies. So Esau, while he's preparing for World War III in the fight against Yahweh Shai, he's building FEMA camps, ordering guillotines, ordering the manacles, setting up the stage to defame the Israelites and make it seem as though they are the enemies of all righteousness, when in fact Esau himself is. So again, this is the pre-tribulation concept of what these Edomites believe, right? They believe that you'll have a rapture of the church, then you'll have 7 years of tribulation. And this is what I want to focus on first. This concept of right here. Again, this word of rapture is not in the Bible. If we type in the word rapture, here we have a concordance. You can type in any word you want and see how many times it pops up. And the translation from today, Hebrew and Greek, I typed in the word rapture and check this out. Let's see how many times it occurs. Right? It says, bear with me. There are no concordance result for a rapture in the King James Version. Right? No other result. There are no results for a rapture in the Bible because that word is not in there. All right? That word is not in the scriptures. Now, if you go to other versions, they got rapture in there. Right? Whatever version this is, it said DBY, but the Lord not dealing with the DBY. All right? That word rapture is not in the King James Version. So where did it get this word rapture from? Right? Let's go. Let's type this word in an online etymology dictionary. Right? And that's a heavy thing, man. Even these low-level Edomites, everybody's familiar with this word rapture. Everybody has some type of knowledge of it. You know? And Anita Baker had a song back in the day, Caught Up in the Rapture, man. You know? So even Jake's are familiar with that word, man. So rapture, this is the online etymology dictionary, the origin of this word, it says the act of carrying off. From Middle French rapture, medieval rapture, to seize. This is where you get the word rape from, right? This is where you get the word rape from, because rape means to seize, meaning you grab somebody up and carry them away. Rape, kidnapping, from the Latin raptus. So the rape goes back to the Latin word raptus and rapture. So they get, so you got these Christians, man, they believe they're gonna get raptured, and that being basically raped, man, carried away captive. You know, a carrying off, abduction, snatching away, rape. You know, so you don't want to use that word, man. The Lord's coming to rape, you know, these Christians, man, and rapture them off. So they don't know what's going on. All right. So that's what this word rapture comes from the Latin raptus, meaning to carry off or to abduct or snatch away or to rape. All right. Now, going back to this, bear with me, going back to this concept of the rapture, they believe that men are going to be snatched away, right? Then you'll have 7 years of tribulation. But we have to show in prophetic timelines what is the real chronology of what's going to happen, right? Because you're not going to have people beamed up in the chariots and have 7 years of tribulation. Because that's what they believe. They believe in 7 years of tribulation, right? Let me pull that up on the map again. And I'm going to show you where they get that from. All right, check this out. This is the middle of the tribulation. They believe there's going to be a rapture and then 3.5 years of tribulation. All right, then 3.5 other years. We have to show you what this is talking about. What are these 3.5 years and these 3.5 years? All right, let's go to the book of Revelation. All right, let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11. All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 11. So these 7 years, before we go to that, let's go to Daniel, the 9th chapter. I'd rather go to that one first. They're getting that from Daniel, the 9th chapter. All right. This is Daniel chapter 9 and verse 20. I don't want to break this whole thing down for sake of time. All right, I'll read it. All right, this Daniel chapter 9 and 23. And it reads, this Daniel 9 and 23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. Right? This Daniel getting a breakdown of what will come in the end of the world from Gabriel, the archangel. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to set up the vision of and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. So you have 70 weeks that are set up to get every one of these things that were mentioned to be fulfilled, right? And these are not 70 actual weeks. These are 490 years, right? Remember, a week in the Bible is just a period of 7. Now, sometimes in the Bible, a week can refer to 7 days, but sometimes a week can refer to 7 years. All right. How do you know that? Let's go to Genesis chapter 29, right? And prove that, right? Got to shake the dust off of these precepts. Genesis chapter 29 and 27. And it reads, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also. For the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. So Laban told Jacob, fulfill a week of serving me, which is 7 other years. Did not the Lord say in Ezekiel chapter 4 and 6 that he has appointed each day for a year? Right? So if you have 70 weeks and each week is 7 years, 7 times 70 is 490. So this is spiritually 70 weeks. All right. So you have 70 weeks that are set up as a timeline to fulfill certain things in prophecy, such as what? Let's read it again. And this is where these scholars, and I'm going to show you where they get these 7 weeks from. I mean, it's 7 years, right, of tribulation. Daniel chapter 9 and verse 24 again. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression. So within those 70 weeks, sin for the Israelites has to be done away with, meaning the Lord has to redeem us to finish the transgression. Our transgression will not be finished until what? Until we're taken up out of this place. All right. And to make an end of sins, same thing. And to make reconciliation for iniquity. Even Yahweh Shah will come to preach the gospel and reconcile us back to the Most High from our sins. So even Yahweh Shah has to come on the scene through these 70 weeks or within these 70 weeks and to bring in everlasting righteousness. So within these 70 weeks, everlasting righteousness has to be implemented. Within these 70 weeks, you have to have everlasting righteousness put forth and to seal up the vision and prophecy. So the prophecies have to be sealed up. Things have to be completed, right? And to anoint the most holy. So the most holy has to be anointed. All right. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Now, 62 weeks and 7 weeks is 69 weeks. Now, remember, each week is a 7 years. So if you have 69 weeks and you multiply that times 7, you get 483. And you can do the math on your own. That's 483 years. Right? I know this may be a lot. It may be a little much, but, just bear with me. You may have to rewind it, watch it again. It's just a deep prophecy. But the Lord is saying, there, verse 25 again, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem. Because who gave the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem? Artaxerxes. right? Around 444, 445 BC. All right, you had different decrees from Cyrus and Darius, but you had a final decree that you can read about in detail in Nehemiah, the second chapter, about Artaxerxes giving a decree for Israel to restore and build Jerusalem during the time of the post-Persian captivity. All right, or post-Babylonian captivity, rather. Right? It says, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem until the Messiah, the Prince, meaning to Yahushua, comes on the scene, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks." So around 445 BC, if you add roughly 483 years later, that's when Yahushua comes on the scene. All right, and that's when he's actually born. And the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Right? So you can read about Ezra, the fourth chapter, first Ezra, the fifth chapter, and read about how as we were building the temple and restoring the foundations of the city, that you had men like Sanballat, and I believe the man's name was Tobias, these heathen that came and wanted to disrupt us from building the temple. So those were the troublous times, right? Verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, because Yahushua was crucified, but not for himself, meaning he died for the people. And the people of the prince, which are the Romans, shall come and shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And until the end of the war, desolations are determined, right? So the Most High is letting you know that you'll have the city destroy Jerusalem, right, after these 69 weeks. All right. And that was in 70 AD. During the time of 70 AD, you had Jerusalem completely destroyed by Titus, Vespasian, and Domitian during the Flavian dynasty. And they actually have an ark of Titus to commemorate the destruction of Jerusalem. There's they call it bas relief sculptures that show Edomites carrying a menorah out of the temple, right? And I could pull that up for those who may not know, right? Romans, I'm gonna type in stealing the menorah, right? Bear with me. Menorah 70 AD. All right, that's what it means. The people of the prince shall come and destroy the city, right? Because the prince of this world is the spiritual demon Satan, and his people are what? The Edomites. That's on the left hand side. See, check this out. These are the, and I typed in Romans stealing the menorah. This happened in 70 AD. The people of the prince. Remember, the prince, pursuant to Ephesians chapter 2, 1 on down, and Matthew chapter 12, 24 and down, the prince of this world is the spiritual demon Satan, right? That's also in John, the 12th chapter, and I believe 31. And these are his people. These are the people that work for the prince, right? It reads, I'm going to read that latter part again at Daniel 9 and 26. And the people of the prince, which are the Romans, that shall come shall destroy the city. They destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD with a great onslaught and massacre. And the sanctuary, and that was a physical building in a physical sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, right? Not a literal water flood, but the invading armies. And until the end of the war, desolations are determined. So you had desolations that continued until the war ceased and the destruction stopped from the Romans. Now, here's the point I want to get. This is where the Christians get these 7 years from. Verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So it says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week. So this is where they get this 7 years from. Let me pull this back up. Right? It says he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, which is 7 years. And they're saying in the midst of the week, which is in a period after 3.5 years, he's going to cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, right? And what this is talking about, this is speaking about the persecution of the children of Israel after the 3.5 days, right? So when these Christians and these Edomites want to speak about the middle of tribulation and the rapture and all of these different eschatological concepts, which are false, they have no idea what they're talking about, because this tribulation is focusing on the Israelites. And I pulled this up, Slakia. They believe that these people are going to get beamed up. Then you have tribulation. That is madness, man. I'm going to tell you how it's going to play out according to thus said the Lord. And Daniel 9:27, I'm going to read that one more time. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. This is speaking about Esau, right? That's the he. He's going to confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. The covenant that he has confirmed with many for 1 week is the covenant that he has made with the children of Israel. It is not a written covenant. It is a covenant that we as a nation are allowed to thrive and keep the commandments and serve the Most High for a certain dispensation of time. The devil, he allows us to keep the commandments now. You know, he's allowing us to pray to the Most High, and we can actually go out there and teach, man, on the highways and byways, and tell them they're going into slavery. We're allowed to have schools and buildings and bring people in. We're allowed to walk out freely with our fringes, right? This was set up for a 1 week, for a period of time. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12 and 14. And let's prove that. All right. Let's prove that. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12 and 14. Like the brother said, Ban Yawasap, house of Manasseh, the third abomination of desolation. That's what it's focusing on. Right. And these Christians, they don't understand prophecy. They don't understand that this great tribulation, first of all, this rapture is not in the Bible. We thoroughly cut that. Second of all, this great tribulation has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with these Edomites that go to the church and these Edomites with megaphones and these Hamites, right? We're showing you what this great tribulation is speaking about with these 3.5 years, the midst of the week, the other 3.5 years, and it's speaking about the nation of Israel and what will befall us in the latter days. Now, we read about in Daniel 9 that he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. You'll hear brothers, they'll go into that and say, well, the Romans came up and the Romans allowed Israel during the Roman Jewish wars to keep the sacrifice and allow them to do the will of the Lord. Where is that at? Where's the proof on that? Where's the documents on the Flavian dynasty during the Roman Jewish wars, taking a break from destroying Israel and giving them a time period where they can flourish and follow the will of the Most High? Then they broke that covenant and went back to destroy Jerusalem. Where's the documents on that? Where's the proof on that, man? There's no that has never happened, man. All right, that's not documented in history, and that is a false understanding of Daniel the 9th chapter that brothers dive into the 27th verse. You're living in the last week right now, right? You're living in the last week. How do you know you're living in the last week? Even in Hosea the 6th chapter tells you that we are living in the third day, right? You're living in the third day, and we're approaching the 3.5 days where the elect are going to be completely sealed. The 3.5 days is the midst of the week. And the midst of the week, us being allowed to serve the Most High is going to be shut down for the overspreading of abominations on the temple and the altar. Not a physical temple, not a physical altar, but a spiritual temple and a spiritual altar, which are the elect of the Most High God, that are going to be destroyed by Esau in the last days after the midst of the week. That happened during the time of first Maccabees, during the Greek Empire, where Antiochus Epiphanes IV came and profaned the temple and the altar, which was called the abomination of desolation, right? Now, that's in Daniel 11 and 31. Now, you had another abomination of desolation in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter that Yahweh spoke of, which were the Romans. But little do you know that everything wasn't fulfilled in Matthew chapter 24. There's another abomination of desolation coming where these devils, Esau, is going to make war against the saints and try to destroy the temple and the altar, which is us. All right. Now I want to go to Revelation chapter 12 and 14. Let's speak about this covenant that that's mentioned in Daniel chapter 9, right? Revelation chapter 12 and 14. And it reads, and to the woman, which is the nation of Israel, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness and to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half of time from the face of the serpent. So here in this wilderness, which is Babylon the Great, this is the wilderness where there's no life. And the Lord called this a dry and thirsty land in Psalm chapter 63 and 1. In Psalm chapter 42, even David said, I pant and I'm thirsty, looking for something to sustain myself. And it's a wicked kingdom, man. Right? So the Most High is calling this place a wilderness. Right? Trees aren't bringing forth fruit. You don't have the grass and the reeds and the rushes flourishing. Everything is dead. But in this place, you have the Israelites being nourished, meaning being taken care of by the serpent. Who's the serpent? The so-called white man. We're being nourished by him. Right? That's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 48. Let's get that. How are we being nourished? All of that is part of this covenant. Where these devils are agreeing amongst themselves to nourish us, man. Right? To keep us in this captivity. And that's the will of the Most High. Because we was brought over here not to be put to death and massacred, but because we moved the Most High to wrath. So he raised up an enemy over us, and this is our prison, our punishment. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. So check that out. That's us going to our enemy for food, water, clothes, whatever, education, medicine, a car, a job, a loan, right? A sense of happiness, whatever the case may be. You have to go to the serpent to get it, right? And this was set up to happen for a certain dispensation of time. All right. That's what the Lord said in Revelation 12 and 14, that this will happen for a time and times and a half of time. And that time, times, and half of time, and we go into this often, right? That time, and half of time is 3.5 years. Remember, a time in the Bible is 360 years. All right. A times in the Bible is 720 years. And a half of time is 180 years, 180 days, like 360 days, 720 days, and 180 days, which adds up to 1,260 days, or 42 months, or 3.5 years. So we'll be here for a certain dispensation of time till the truth was manifest. All right, let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11 and 8. All right, let's go to Revelation 11 and 8. So here we're allowed to keep the law of the Lord for a certain period of time for these 3.5 years. Mainly from the 1960s all the way up until when these 3.5 days are over. All right. Now you're in the third day right now, approaching the half of this day. All right. You're in this third day now. Before I go to Revelation 11, let's prove that. Let's go to Hosea the 6th chapter. All right. You're in the third day right now. All right. You had men that would read Hosea the 6th chapter back in the day and believe that we were going to get delivered in the year 2000 because they didn't understand the prophecies. The living waters were still at the ankles. Now the living waters are rising. So we're understanding a little bit more prophecy. Hey, the Lord said in 2 Peter chapter 1 and 19, that we have a more sure word of prophecy, as they do well as a light that shineth in the dark place until the day dawn and the day start rising in your hearts. So as we approach the end of this man's kingdom, a higher level of understanding of prophecy is going to be put out there. All right. So Hosea chapter 6, and that's thus saith the Lord. Hosea chapter 6 and 1. Right? Hosea chapter 6 and 1. Come and let us return unto the Lord. For he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, will he revive us. Right? After 2 days, he will revive us. And the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. So check that out. It says after 2 days, he will revive us. So the spirits start working in 2 days. Then in the third day, he will raise us up. Aren't we being raised up? Aren't brothers putting down false nationalities like Black, Hispanic, Native American? Aren't men coming out of the Christian church? Aren't you standing up upon your feet out of the valley of dry bones? That's him raising you up, right? Then the Lord said, awake, arise, and sit down. In Isaiah chapter 52, shake off the dust off your feet. That's happening now in the third day. After 2 days, he will revive us, right? And the third day, he will raise us up. So if you study in the orology of this thing, you're in the third day, but you're approaching. We have a half a day to go, right? We have 12 hours to go. You understand? That's spiritual. We have 12 spiritual hours to go. That's why Yahushua said, are there not 12 hours in a day? You know? Then you have 12 hours of night. You know? So we have a half a day left in this thing, man. All right? And that's why Revelation, the 11th chapter, speaks about 3 days and a half. All right? Now, when that half of day is implemented, and we've reached that half of the day, every one of the 144,000 are going to be sealed. How do you know that? Let's go to Revelation 11 and 8. All right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 11 and 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Speaking about America, the spiritual Sodom and Egypt. Whose dead bodies are lying here? Our dead bodies. How are we dead? Because we're dead in our sins. We have no knowledge of truth, right? Let's go to real quick. Let's go to Ephesians 2 and 1 to prove that we are the dead. All right, Ephesians chapter 2 and 1. And it reads, and you have he quickened who were dead in trespasses and sins. So we were dead in our trespasses and sins, right? Proverbs 21 and 16. All right, this Proverbs chapter 21 and 16. It reads, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So if you leave the way of the Lord, then you're spiritually dead. In Revelation 11, the Lord says, and their dead bodies. That's us, these Negroes and Negro women out here, Hispanic, Latinos, and Native Americans who are gone, man. So I'm living a dream, but they're spiritually dead. I'm living a life, but you spiritually dead. We're in Babylon the Great for a certain period of time. Right, let's read that again. Revelation 11 and 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, meaning for a certain period of time. All right, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. So these nations, they looking at us in our lower state. They're watching us dead, man. They're not comforting us. They're not giving us the truth, right? They're not giving us the knowledge of who we are. They see us even in this third day, and we're not fully awakened yet, man. We're kind of waking up. We're in the process in the third day, and they see us, but they refuse to give us the knowledge of who we are. That's what it means. They will not suffer our dead bodies to be put in graves, right? It says, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another. Because these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. That's Judah and Israel on a surface level, right? And after 3 days and a half. So now you see we're in the third day, but we have a half a day left. So after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So all of our men are going to stand upon their feet after the 3 days and a half. Men are standing up now, but the whole army is going to be set up after 3 days and a half. That's why when you go to Matthew, the 24th chapter, it tell you that. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14. Right, this Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14. And it reads, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, Slakia, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. Right? So this gospel has to be put forth so the elect can get sealed, and then the winds that are withheld can be put forth. The four winds will not be put forth until this gospel is preached to the four corners of the earth and the elect are sealed. Then a hammer is going to be put down. Right? Let me read that again. Matthew 24 and 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Right? When they therefore, let's see what's going to happen in the end. When they therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Right? Now that abomination of desolation, it's not talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. It said, found spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Daniel the prophet spoke about two abominations of desolations, if you understand prophecy. He spoke about in Daniel the 11th chapter about Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. Let's read about the first abomination of desolation that he spoke of. And this is a very, very important prophecy that has to be put out there. Right? Let's go to Daniel 11 and 31. Right? Let's go to that. Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 11 and 31. And it reads, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice. And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. That's speaking about when Greeks came in there and profaned the physical temple. We had a physical altar, key word. We had a physical temple. We had a physical altar where the Greeks came and put swine's flesh on, dallied with harlots, and committed all abominations in the temple. Now, what Yahweh Shah is speaking about, he's speaking about an abomination of desolation. If you have ears to hear, right? That's why I said, whoso readeth with Daniel, let him understand. He's speaking about an abomination of desolation that's going to occur after the 3 days and a half, after the gospel is preached to the four corners of the earth, after these men stand upon their feet. Because once the 3 days and a half are kicking off, that's when the great tribulation is going to kick off. That's when these devils going to make war against the saints. That's why he said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, because what did he speak of? The second abomination of desolation. Where is that found? In the book of Daniel, not in the 11th chapter, or it's like this, the third abomination of desolation, right? The second one was the Romans. He spoke about that too in that verse, but he's speaking about the third abomination of desolation found in the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter. In Daniel, the 12th chapter, the abomination of desolation is mentioned, but it's not speaking about the Greeks and it's not speaking about the Romans. It's speaking about in the end of this time now. All right, let's go to Daniel chapter 12 and let's prove that. All right, let's go to Daniel, the 12th chapter, and let's break it down. Right, this Daniel chapter 12 and 1. Right, Daniel chapter 12 and 1, and it reads, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people. Right, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that should be found written in the book. So during the time of this great tribulation, Jacob's trouble, we're going to be going through hell that we have never experienced before. These devils, they're going to show their true horns. We're going to be gunning down Jake like dogs in the streets, locking you up, persecuting you for a certain dispensation of time. But at that time, we're going to get delivered. We're going to get delivered during the time of Jacob's trouble. So during that great tribulation, that's when the Lord is going to come back. All right? During the midst of that destruction, and at the end of that destruction, that's when Yahweh Shah is coming back. Right? Real quick, that's why in Matthew chapter 24 and 29, it speaks about that. Right? Matthew chapter 24 and 29, right? It reads, immediately after the tribulation of those days, right? That's speaking about the times that are approaching. It's not speaking about 70 AD, right? Speaking about from verse 15 on down. Immediately after the abomination of desolation, Esau making war against the saints, the tribulation. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, which are the missiles, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. They will get broken up by these bombs. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And that's what Revelation 7 was speaking about. Those that came out of that great tribulation, right? That great tribulation is the time like none other. Let's read on in Daniel chapter 12 and 2, right? Daniel chapter 12 and verse 2. And it reads, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Right? So check that out. Men that bring brothers to this truth, that do the work, you're going to shine. Right? You're going to be set up in the kingdom of heaven. Verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So Daniel sealed the book, meaning the Most High shut down these understandings of Daniel and other prophecies until the time we live in there now. Many people are going to run to and fro. Things are going to happen, and knowledge is going to be increased. The understanding of the Bible is going to be increased. Prophecy is going to be shed more. Light is going to be more shed into the prophecies, right? Even technological or technical, right? Technology is going to be advanced too, man. Right? Reading on. Verse 5. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. Those are two angels. All right. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? So he said, how long is this going to be? Because Daniel 11 was mentioned all the way to the time of the end of the world, when Michael the archangel is going to stand up. How long is it going to be? Right? And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? Verse 7, Daniel 12 and 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half, which is the 3 days and a half. All right, which is the 42 months, the 1,260 days. Right? That's what we read in Revelation 11. After 3 days and a half, they shall stand upon their feet. All right. It reads, Salakia. Hey, Shalom, I'm gonna hit you back. I'm doing a live stream. Shalom. Hey, I'm gonna hit you back. I'm doing a live stream.
Oh, God.
All right. Right? So these same 3 days and a half, Salakia for that. These same 3 days and a half are the 3 days and a half mentioned in Revelation 11 chapter. All right. These are the times, and the dividing of time. Let me read that again from the top. Daniel chapter 12 and 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. So Esau is going to make war against the saints during this time and a half of time, right? We read that in Daniel chapter 9. For those that don't remember, let's go to Daniel chapter 9 and 27. Right? Daniel chapter 9 and 27. And he, meaning Esau, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, meaning those that's in his truth. And in the midst of the week, after 3 days and a half, after the time and a half of time, after the gospel is preached to the four corners of the earth, after the elect are sealed, and in the midst of the week, after they're standing upon their feet, after all of the 144,000 are sealed, in the midst of the week, he, Esau, shall cause by force, meaning by arms, by military, shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Now, we don't do physical oblations. We don't do physical sacrifices on a physical altar. We don't have a physical temple. So Daniel 9 is speaking about a third temple that's built already, a third altar, which are the 144,000 that Esau is going to make war against after the 3.5 days. That's what Matthew 24:15 is speaking about, right? That's what the prophecies are declaring. When you go precept upon precept, line upon line, and understand biblical chronology and orology, all right? And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause a sacrifice and oblation to cease, for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. That's what Yahweh Shah spoke of in Matthew 24. That's the abomination of desolation. All right? Because the same thing that occurred in the book of First Maccabees, where it was unlawful for you to profess yourself as a Jew, that's coming back, right? Where you're going to be killed for keeping a Sabbath day, that's coming back in a big way, right? All those, when they were going into the law, going into the homes and burning up Bibles, that's coming back in a big way. They were kicking down doors, man. That's coming back. But the only difference is it's not going to be in a physical temple and a physical altar. It's going to be after this temple is built. After the last stone is built for the temple, Esau is going to get mad and make war against the saints. All right. So again, let's go to Daniel chapter 9. Let's go back to that. Daniel chapter 12. Salaki. All right. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12 and verse Salaki 8. All right. Daniel chapter 12 and verse 8. And it reads, and I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. But the words are open now. All right. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Right? But the wise shall understand. Right? But the wise shall understand. And from the time that this was Yahweh spoke of about the abomination of desolation, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there should be 1,290 days. Now, this 1,290 days, this is way after the Roman Empire, right? The first Roman Empire during the time of the Lord, right? Now, if this is after the time of the Roman Empire, right? How could Daniel chapter 9 and 27 be speaking about the Roman Empire? We broke down the midst of the week in a 3 days and a half, which is this time now, right? Us standing on our feet. This 1,290 days. Let me read that again. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, it should be 1,290 days. Because remember, in the midst of that week, after the 1,260 days, if you can understand, that's what the midst of the week is. That 3.5 years is 1,260 days, right? But the Lord says it's going to be from the time that the sacrifice is taken away to it's cleansed, is going to be a 1,290 days. Now, in the midst of that 1,260 days, you have an additional 30 days, right? And the 1,260 days, that's when the elect are sealed. Then you have this turmoil and tribulation for 30 days. Is that literal 30 days? No, it's not literally 30 days. Those are then that's where those 30 days are coming from, because it went from 1,260 to 1,290. And the difference between 90 and 60 is 30, right? And when you go into that prophecy, I don't want to get too deep, but we go through that and we always break it down as a time being 360 years, right? I mean 360 days. That's how long a biblical year is. 360 years. It's like your days. And that's determined based off of the lunar solar calendar, right? A lunar calendar is 354.11 days. A solar calendar is 365.25 days. You add 365.25 plus 354.11, you get 720. If you divide that by 2 using the sun and the moon, you get 360 days. When you go to the book of Genesis, the 7th chapter, you read about the flood being on the earth for 5 months, right? And the waters, well, that's what we got to read. That's what we got to get into this on a deep level, right? The flood was on the earth from the 17th day in the 2nd month to the 17th day of the 7th month, which is 5 months. The waters prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. So if you have 5 months and the waters were on the earth for 150 days, each month consisted of 30 days. If each month consists of 30 days, and you read the book of Esther, say that there's 12 months in a year, each year is going to have 360 days. There's 30 days in each month, 12 months in a year, it's 360 days in a year. You know, King Solomon, the First Kings, the 4th chapter, and I'm summing it up for sake of time, he had 12 officers, right? And 1 man for each month, because there's 12 months in a year and 360 days in a year. If you take 360 and divide it by 12 months, you get 30 days in a year. That's how we know biblically and prophetically we're dealing with a year of 360 days. So that's why if you have a time times and a half of time, that's 360 days plus 2 years, which is 720 days, plus 180 days. That's the only way to mathematically get 1,260 days, or 42 months, or 3.5 years. All right. And I know this is a little high or a little deep, right? But just bear with me as we go through the prophecies and dive into this thing. All right. So let's read that again. Revelation chapter 12 and 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that make it desolate set up, meaning after the gospel is preached, and the Romans, these modern Romans, are persecuting us, it's going to be 1,290 days. So you have that 1,260 days, which is the midst of the week. Then you have 30 days where the covenant is broken, because the covenant is supposed to be for 7 years, but that's going to be shut down. That covenant is going to be broken. So that concept of 7 years is thrown out the window now. That's what people fail to realize. You throw that out the window once the covenant is broken. If I make a covenant with you and a treaty and a deal with you and say, look, I'll work for you for 7 years if you pay me $1 million. If you break that, if I work for you for 3.5 years and in the midst of that contract, you break the covenant, all of the additional years, that's thrown out the window. That doesn't matter anymore. That is no longer applicable because they broke the covenant. That's why it says in the midst of the week, after the 3.5 years, the covenant was broken, where Esau is not going to allow us to follow the laws and commandments anymore. Then you have those, after that, you have those 30 days, or you have those 30 days of trials and tribulation. All right. Now, 1 year is 360 days. So now, in order to figure out how long 30 days is, You have to simply do that math. All right, now 30 days, and I had the notes on it when I went through the prophecy and the math. 30 days sums up to around. See if I had it in this. Bear with me 1 second. Right, I have to find it again. Right, my prophecy notebook. Right, I'll have to find it again. Right, but 30 days. Bear with me. I have my I have to dive back into my prophecy notebook, but I don't have it in front of me right now. Right, but those 30 days are a certain period of time. All right, a certain dispensation of time in which we're going to be going through hell. All right, similarly known as those 10 days in Revelation, the 2nd chapter. All right, verse 12, Daniel chapter 12 and 12. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. So the 305 and 30 days are 45 days after 1,290 days. So if you endure Jacob's trouble with the trials and tribulations leading up to the wilderness and the kingdom, if you endure all of that, then you're blessed because you're going to make it to the kingdom. That's what the 1,335 days is, which is 45 days after the 1,290 days, all right, which goes into the time period from the midst of the week being cut off to tribulation to being delivered, and during that, going through the wilderness and being established in the kingdom. All right. Blessed is he that waited and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. But go thy ways to the end be, for thou shalt rest and shalt stand in thy lot at the end of days. So when you pull this back up, all right, I'm gonna pull this back up. Where is it? Again, these Christians believe that these 3.5 years, and speaking about, first of all, they believe people are going to be caught up, which we will be caught up in the chariots. That's going to happen if we endure that time period of Jacob's trouble after the 3.5 days. All right. If we endure those 30 days, or what the Bible calls those 10 days, and Jacob's trouble could be anywhere between, it could last between 5 years, it could be 12 years. Jacob's trouble could be 8 years, man. Right? It could be a week, but we know it's going to be for a certain period of time. If you endure that tribulation and trials and turmoil on the earth, then you're going to get caught up in the clouds after you endure those 10 days. Because after the 1,260 days, you're going to have 10 days later. But with Daniel, the 12th chapter costs 30 days, which is a precise number. Because 1 year is 360 days, and if you do the math for 30 days, you'll find out how many years that is. All right. So again, this is I'm not done yet, but I call it this end times, great tribulation, the rapture, and prophecy, because we're touching on prophecy. Right? We're speaking about us going through a third abomination of desolation, where our sacrifice and our oblation is going to cease. What is our sacrifice that we do? It's serving the Most High. Right? Then the Lord said that we offer up spiritual sacrifices in 2 Peter, the 2nd chapter. Right? Don't we present our bodies as a living sacrifice? Then the Lord say that the fruit of our lips is a sacrifice. Then the Lord said, Psalms chapter 141 and 1 on down, that we lift up our hands as the evening sacrifice, serving Yahweh by Shemi Awashai. All that's going to be shut down. All right, let's go to 2 Peter chapter 2. All right, this 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse, bear with me. It's like I want 1 Peter, the 2nd chapter. All right, this 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5. Right, 1 Peter chapter 2 and 5. Yea, also as lively stones. That's how we know we're a spiritual temple and a spiritual altar. Read Isaiah the 19th chapter. Right? Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High by Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. So the sacrifices and oblations that we do are spiritual sacrifices, going out there doing the work. Brothers out there in the highways and byways, those are the spiritual sacrifices, right? Those are the new sweet savors to the Lord, right? Presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice, the fruit of our lips and serving the Lord. These are the new spiritual sacrifices that we do upon the altar that is being conducted in Babylon the Great. But Esau is going to profane that altar as the elect, once the elect are sealed, right? Because the destruction is not going to take place till the elect are sealed. All right. So these Christians who speak about prophecy, you ask them about what is this great tribulation, they have no idea what's going on, right? You know, you got these Edomites right here trying to figure out what's going on. Look at them, right? They not going to make it, man. All right, let's see. They got they don't know what's going on, man. All right, they're saying after the great tribulation, Satan is going to be confined up. That already happened already, but they don't know that. All right, they don't know what's going on. So we have to go precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. All right, so this has been end times, the great tribulation, rapture and prophecy, touching on some prophecies, touching on the end of the world, speaking about Esau, how he's going to make war against us again, which is the upcoming abomination of desolation. Speaking about the 3.5 years to 3.5 days, the 1,290 days, and the 1,335 days. Giving all honor and glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach, Wamalak Yahushai, Kwam Yashala, most high willing you was edified. Shalom.